Hi, and welcome to How to Become a Professional Dog Trainer webinar. My name is Robin Bennett, and I am a certified professional dog trainer. I'm a CPDT KA, and you're going to learn a little bit about what that means in this webinar. And I just want to give you a quick overview on some of the questions that I often get asked about how to become a professional dog trainer. So I'm going to start out, first of all, just explaining a few terms. And the very first question that people often get confused about is what actually is a dog trainer? There's a lot of terms going around in this industry, and some of them have very specific meanings. So you just want to understand as you're talking to people about being a dog trainer, what that term really means. So pretty much if you're a dog trainer, or some people call themselves a dog training instructor, there's really no degree that's required. You might have a degree and be a dog trainer, but you don't necessarily have to go out and get any kind of academic degree. You might be certified, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or you might have just learned on the job and you've become a dog trainer because of your experience and skill level. That is a little bit different from somebody that's called a veterinary behaviorist. A veterinary behaviorist actually has a medical degree. They are usually a veterinarian, and they've gone through school for that. And then a behaviorist, which some people use that term to say they're a behaviorist, that is really a vague term that doesn't have a defined meaning in our industry. A lot of trainers do behavior modification, or they might specialize in some kind of behavior type of work, but they don't typically call them a behaviorist because the term behaviorist is usually reserved for that veterinary behaviorist that has a medical degree. So an example, for instance, is myself. I've been training for over 20 years. I do behavior modification. I can work with dogs on behavioral issues, but I call myself a dog trainer. I'm certified, but I don't have a medical degree. I'm not a veterinarian. So I'm very careful to make sure that I'm not kind of taking that term from the veterinary industry and using it to apply it to myself. So you want to just make sure about that as you're learning about this field. Now, one of the most common questions I get is, what's the typical career path? And the answer is there really isn't one. Career paths are kind of all over the place. There's a lot of different ways you can become a trainer, but the biggest thing that you want to understand is that you need to get some really good education and really good background so that you understand what you're doing. There's a lot of ways that you can get that education and background, and that's what we're going to talk about. The training industry is a non-regulated industry. That means that you could actually go out right now, print up some business cards, start charging for training, and going and start doing dog training, running a dog training business. We don't recommend that, obviously, because we want you to have the proper education, but it is true that people can do that. And that makes this very much a buyer beware industry. So as a professional industry, we want to make sure that those who are entering the industry are acting as professionals, and they are getting the proper education. You can get education through schools, through academic degrees. You can apprentice. You can do a lot of self-education. You can do some on-the-job training with other mentors or other trainers in your area. There's a lot of different ways you can get that education. I would recommend you're going to do a little bit of all of these things to really learn about the dog training industry and profession. So how long does it take to learn? Well, there's a wide range of schools out there, and in a few months, if you're doing a lot of educating of yourself or you're taking a school for a few months, you can learn some very basic fundamentals. And you may be able to start to help people learn a little bit about teaching their dogs some very basic behaviors. You might be able to learn a little bit about things like how to house train a dog, or things like bringing a new dog into a family. What do you have to do to make sure it's safe for that pet? So you can probably learn a few very basic fundamentals in just a few months, but it's going to take several years to really become proficient. Dog training is really continuing to evolve as the years go on, so this is really one of those industries where you never stop learning. What I recommend for people is, when you start to put your toe into dog training, one of the biggest things you have to understand is how much you don't know and how you can really refer to others. So if you start training and somebody comes to you with a issue that's probably beyond your level of experience, you have to be able to recognize that, to say, you know what, I'm not ready to take on this client, and refer them to another trainer in your area. So having a kind of referral network of friends and other trainers that you can refer to is really important, especially when you're first starting out. So let's talk about certifications. I get a lot of questions about the process of certification, and first of all, again, we're going to go back to terminology. So what do you really mean by certification? You want to make sure that you're clear on what everyone's talking about when they're talking about certifications. So there are certifications offered by schools or academies. So people that actually do dog training, you can be certified by that particular school or that particular academy. So let's say you went to, Jane Doe's School of Dog Trainers. You might graduate from Jane Doe's School of Dog Trainer certified by Jane Doe's School of Dog Trainer. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good education. You've gotten qualified by that particular school, and you've learned that particular school's methods of teaching and their philosophy of training, and that's great. That's one type of certification. You can also get a certificate. So sometimes we talk about, I've gotten a certificate from a school, and again, that means you've gotten a certain type of education or you've taken a certain type of course. Again, great education opportunity. But when most people talk about certifications, they're really talking about a certifying agency that's an independent body that is actually screening you to see, do you have the right skills and knowledge to actually be a dog trainer. So certification, usually by an independent agency, is what we mean when we talk about I'm certified as a dog trainer. So you want to kind of understand that. And it's not that those other certifications are bad, it's just you want to understand the difference and be able to explain that. Some of the certification programs that we would talk about if we're looking at that independent agency certifying would be the ones listed here. And these are not the only ones, but these are some of the ones that are very well known. The Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers is how I'm certified, so ccptdt.org, and my certification is a CPDT-KA, which means I'm knowledge assessed. There's some certification tests that are knowledge-based, there's some that are skills-based, and there's a wide variety. So you can check out some of these associations to look at how to become certified. And so some people say, why should I get certification? And my biggest recommendation for certification is that it does provide the public some proof that you've done some education. Remember, this is an unregulated industry, so we really want trainers who are in our industry to be professional. We want them representing the industry as a whole as a professional association, a professional industry. And this is going to help you do that. It just professionalizes what you're actually doing as you work with dogs on a day-to-day basis. It's also going to ensure you continue to learn and grow, because if you're certified, typically all certifying agencies require you to do continuing education on a yearly basis. So that's going to ensure that you're going out and you're continuing your learning. So the interesting thing about certification is a lot of people say, well, I can't train dogs until I become certified. The truth of the matter is, to even sit for a certification exam, you typically have to have a number of hours as a trainer before you can even sit for the exam. So for instance, CPDT, which is what I am, I was required to have 300 hours of training before I was even able to take the exam. So you can become a dog trainer, but you should be working towards certification. And you want to make sure that whatever certification you're going to go work towards, you understand what they want you to learn. And that's some of the stuff that we're going to talk about as well. There's certain things that kind of make up the base of what any professional dog trainer should know. So how do you get all this education so that you can learn this stuff and ultimately become certified? Schools are one way to do it. And the great thing about today's world is, unlike 20-some years ago when I started, there's lots of schools out there. You can take a school that teaches fundamentals in the canine learning and behavior, in the business part of training, in the human learning part of training. So there's a lot of schools out there. Some of these schools are online, some of them are in person, some last a couple of years, some last just a weekend. So there's schools and courses that you can take to help gain some of the education that you're going to need to be a professional dog trainer. You really want to look at all of these schools and, number one, find out what they're teaching and whether or not that is something you need to learn. So, and I'm going to talk about what a trainer needs to know a little bit later in this webinar, but you want to match that school with filling the gaps of where you need to learn things that you might not already know. And then the second thing is check references. Find out if the school's got a good reputation. Talk from some trainers that have gone to that school. And the third thing is understand the training methodology that's taught there. Training is very wide-reaching in terms of how people train. and the tools they use, and you want to make sure that the school you're choosing matches the way that you want to teach and that you want to train. And we would say that should be based on dog-friendly, scientific, humane methods of training. So you want to make sure that the school is going to be a match for that as well. If you're going to find a mentor or an apprentice, you want to really look for, again, somebody that is going to be a good fit for you, somebody that is interested in helping new trainers learn, and ways that you can find these people. The APDT has a trainer search. You can search by zip code, and that will give you a list of other trainers in your area. Now, not every one of them may be a good match for you, so you want to meet them and talk to them and see if they're interested in taking on a volunteer or taking on an apprentice that they can help. You can also go to the APDT conference, which is an annual conference that they have every year throughout, usually in the fall there's a conference, and that's a great way to network and meet other people and find out who might be in your area that might be interested in helping to develop a new trainer, such as yourself. You can attend dog training classes in your area. This is one of the best ways to find out how somebody trains, whether or not you're interested in learning similar methods that they're teaching and how their basic flow of the class works. You can also decide if the chemistry between you and that possible trainer that you're going to work with, if that is a good match. So that's another way, is actually just take your dog to a training class and see how well that works for you. Again, I would get references, and you can check references with local veterinarians, with any of the other pet professionals in your area to see who they would recommend and who might be a good fit for you. Again, you want to understand the training methodology and make sure that that matches in terms of what's being taught and how they're teaching it. So those are great ways to find a mentor or an apprentice that you can work with. And then every trainer that I know does their own self-education. Whether or not they go to a school or they do a mentoring, they also are doing self-education. Normally, a trainer is going to do a mix of all three of these things. So self-education through magazines and journals and anything that focuses on dog training. Dog trainers love to read books, magazines, journal articles, trade association articles about dog training and behavior, obviously. The Association of Professional Dog Trainers has an award-winning magazine called Chronicle of the Dog, which is a great starting point if you're brand new. There's a company sort of like Amazon, but it's DogWise, and they sell all dog-related books and DVDs, so that's a great place to go and look for resources to check out and read and learn. They have lists on their website of recommendations for brand new trainers or recommendations in certain areas of the training industry depending on what you're interested in. Again, attending conferences and trade shows, attending the educational sessions that APDT offers online, all of those things are great ways to get education. And then you can find list communities online where you can ask questions and learn from other trainers. APDT has a wonderful community of members that you can go in and learn from, and they're always very helpful if you have questions, whether you're starting out or you might be an experienced trainer just needing questions about a case. It's a great opportunity to help learn. And then other ways you can gain some education is to volunteer in your community, so shelters, rescues, other pet businesses, any place where you can help out and learn a little bit about dogs at the same time is a great way to get education. So let's go to what you should be actually learning. So I talked about all these ways you can get the education. There's a whole list of things that a trainer should really know. And so we're going to start out with just, you should understand the history of dog training. Just in the 20-some years that I've been training, dog training industry has changed quite a bit, and it starts even before that. So you want to know a little bit about the history of dog training and where it's come from and where it's going, because that's really important to understanding some of your clients' needs and some of the different discussions that happen within the training industry. Obviously, you want to understand the science of animal learning. So all these terms here, classical and upper conditioning, positive and negative reinforcement, and punishment, and generalizations, all those terms, if they are new to you, you really want to understand the science of animal learning. Dog training should be science-based. Animals learn a certain way, and we as dog trainers really need to understand the science of how animals learn. It's not just random as to why a dog learns a certain thing. So the science of animal learning is a really important aspect of what every trainer should understand and know. And then, obviously, you want to understand the dog behavior. So everything from development to genetics to fixed action patterns, all the canine body language, because that's how dogs communicate. You have to understand that in order to be able to stay safe yourself and to keep the dog safe. understanding what breeds do and why there's certain characteristics within certain breeds is really important. And then canine health and nutrition. You'll get a lot of questions as a dog trainer. Some very basic answers you should be able to help your clients understand just in terms of canine health and nutrition, understanding when to let them know when they need to go to the veterinarian. Not that you're going to diagnose any kind of problems, but you need to be able to say, you know what, that's not normal. You need to see a vet now. So you need to understand some of that canine health and nutrition information as well as a dog trainer. And then lots of people love to get the training about the dogs, but they often forget that there's a human side of the leash as well, and you have to understand the human side of training, especially if you are going to be teaching in group classes or working with the other end of the leash, which you are. A lot of people get into the dog training industry because they love dogs and don't really want to work with people, but the reality is you're working with people because all of those dogs have a pet parent. So you have to understand things about developing curriculum for classes and really understanding how to teach people. It's one thing for you to be able to be a wonderful trainer and actually get a dog to do something, but you have to be able to teach the people that own the dog how to get the dog to do the same thing. So it's really important to understand how humans think and learn, and to be able to understand working with a wide range of different learning styles. And not every person is going to be, simple and easy to work with. So you have to be able to adjust what you're doing to help teach the best way possible and really be able to set up that environment so that it's safe for the dogs and the dogs are able to learn, but you also want an environment that's safe for the people and that the people are able to learn. So that whole human side of training is a completely different aspect that you want to make sure you're gaining education on as well. And then if this is going to be a business for you, you have to understand the business side of training. Everything from creating that business plan, marketing your business, all of the law and ethics and legal responsibilities that you would have as a business owner. Not everybody wants a business. Some people will end up working with as an employee for another trainer, or maybe you'll work in a corporation as a trainer. All of that is great. Just understand that if you're going to make this a job of its own, you want to understand the business side of training. A lot of people don't think about that until they get 2 years into their business, and then they're thinking, I need to figure out all of these marketing and finance parts of my job too. So just go into it kind of understanding that part as well. There's a great resource that's available to APDT members, and it's called the APDT Body of Knowledge. This is an entire really large packet of information that provides a minimum standards that every trainer should strive towards if they're going to be in this industry. And it's really what we would say is, again, this is an unregulated industry. We want trainers to be representative of the absolute best of the best. The body of knowledge can help you to realize where your knowledge gaps might be, because it will show you a baseline minimum standard in all the different areas that you should be working towards. So you can go through that body of knowledge and kind of say, in this area, I really don't know anything about this, and then try to find some courses and educational materials that will help you gain that knowledge so that you can be a really good, well-rounded professional trainer who can represent the industry really well. That body of knowledge is available to APDT members, so I would definitely check that out. So I'll take a quick pause to just talk about training philosophies. And I talked about earlier, when you're interviewing a school or a mentor, or you're just trying to do your own education, making sure that the methodology is similar to what you want to teach. So in the training industry, there is a wide range of tools and methods for getting a dog to do something. What we would recommend, and what I would recommend personally, is really looking at using positive reinforcement, dog-friendly, scientific-based methods. So that's a really important key to training. Lots of positive reinforcement and really working on getting the dog to understand what you want them to do, using as little force as possible. That's a really important distinction that you want to make, because not every trainer will train that way. So when you're interviewing, you really want to understand the training philosophy of whoever you're going to work with and make sure it's aligned with that type of philosophy so that you're really working with the most current and modern methods possible. And so I would really say focus on those when you're screening or interviewing anybody, so that you're working in kind of the newest model and where training has evolved to in society today. And those are going to usually be the methods that are the least aversive for the dog. So those are really important to understand. That impacts all the training tools you use. It impacts the way you train. It impacts the way you talk to your clients. It has a really big impact on everything you do. And if there's a mismatch between how you want to train and then what someone's teaching you, then you really want to look at that and say, is this really the right fit for my education? So that's really an important part of finding how to get educated in this field. So another common question is, how much money can I make as a trainer? This, you can make as much as you want. It really depends on your ultimate goals. Some people, they don't want to make a lot of money. They just want to be able to serve time helping and volunteering for rescue groups or for shelters, and that's fine. That's one avenue you can do, is you can be a really good trainer and you're just volunteering your time because you're able to help shelters or rescues place more dogs, and that's one area. Other people might want to work for somebody as an employee. They want that to be their main source of income, and there's lots of businesses that are hiring dog trainers now, and a lot of industries that are doing dog training that you can get, step your foot into. And then other people really want this to be their own business. And you can make different amounts of money depending on what you really want to do. If you're making this your own business, it's going to depend on how big your business grows and how much business savvy you have to actually develop, market, and grow your business. If you're working for somebody, you might be splitting the training fee, you might be taking a commission. So again, some of that might depend on how much you can market and grow the business as well. If you are working for a dog training company, you're going to be on an hourly or possibly a salary position, and that might work for you too. So there's no real good answer for how much money you can make. I've been training as my sole source of income for the past 20-some years. I had my own business for 18 years. I hired 10 other instructors that worked under me. So I was doing very well then, and I've transitioned now to doing primarily consulting, so I'm still making money. I'm doing a totally different method now with training, because primarily I work for pet care facilities and to help train their staffs. So it really runs the gamut, and ultimately you can make money. It's going to depend on what you're looking for and what your goals are, though. This can be a tremendously rewarding career. If you love dogs and you really want to help people build a stronger bond with their pet, then this is a great industry for you. You can do a wide range of things as a trainer. You can do everything from basic family pet training. There's probably the biggest need for that because so many dogs are in the country, particularly in the United States. There are so many dogs in the area that there's just a really large pool of dogs to choose from if you're doing basic family pet training. Other things you can do if you're really interested in competition training, you can focus specifically on that. You could focus specifically on sports, so agility and rally, tracking, nose work, fly ball, all of those individual sports are individual areas where you could focus. You could spend just time doing trick training. There's companies out there that do nothing but trick dog training. You could do a combination of all of these things. If you want to just dabble a little bit in everything and you don't want a specific specialty, you can do a little bit of all of these. There's some trainers that really just want to focus on some of the specialty training. I would say for the specialty training, you need to get a very good foundation about training in general first before you go into the specialty areas. But you can work with therapy dogs or service dogs or search and rescue dogs. There's dogs out in the area and doing all kinds of things, everything from finding drugs and explosives to finding termites in houses. So this is just a really big opportunity for you to make the career what you want of it. But you want to obviously start with gaining that initial foundation of education as a very first starting point. And then what would your next steps be? So if you're just starting out on this, you just are wondering, how do I get started? I want to be a dog trainer. The first steps I would say is I would join an association like APDT, and I would go get that body of knowledge, because that's going to give you the most simplified but extensive look at what you really need to know. And then second, you're going to start researching opportunities for you to learn modern dog-friendly methods of dog training. There are a ton of resources on the APDT website, everything from our position papers to webinars to signing up for our conference that I would start out at. it's really not a straight line path that everybody follows. So you're going to be doing a little bit of schooling, a little bit of self-education, a little bit of learning from others and mentoring. You're going to be doing a combination of all those things. But I would start out with checking out the body of knowledge, finding out where your knowledge gaps are, and then looking for ways that you can start to fill those, either with schools or your own self-education. Hopefully that helps to get you started. If you have questions, APDT is happy to answer any of those questions. You can also email me at, my website is robinkbennett.com, and I'd be happy to help you as well. I hope this has been really helpful for you, and I hope